Have you ever found yourself walking on eggshells around your own child? You try to say something simple, something true, and somehow it gets twisted, turned against you. Maybe you've even started questioning whether you're the one in the wrong. If you're just too sensitive, too forgetful, or too needy. But deep down, something doesn't feel right. You feel smaller, silenced, like your voice no longer matters. If that resonates with you, I want you to know this. You are not alone, and you are not imagining things. There's a kind of hurt that cuts, especially deep when it comes from our children. Because we raised them, we sacrificed for them, and we never saw this coming. But what if the child you love so deeply is showing patterns of unhealthy behavior? And what if their words, again and again, are designed not to communicate, but to control? In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the most common phrases an adult child with these traits might say to you. Phrases that slowly chip away at your voice, your self-worth, and your ability to stand in your truth. Understanding these patterns is the first step to reclaiming your power. Let's take a closer look at one of the most damaging phrases you might hear. You're just being selfish. Now that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because as parents, especially those of us in our golden years, the last thing we ever want to be called is selfish. We've spent a lifetime putting others first, our children, our families, our communities. So when a son or daughter accuses us of being selfish, it can hit like a punch in the gut. But here's the truth they don't want you to see. Often, this phrase is pure projection. When a child with controlling tendencies says, "You're just being selfish," what they're really saying is, "How dare you have needs of your own?" Maybe you set a boundary, said no for the first time, or simply asked for respect. But because that doesn't serve their agenda, they turn the spotlight back on you. Suddenly, it's not about your pain or your needs. It's about how difficult you are, how unreasonable you're being. And over time, if you hear that message often enough, you begin to question yourself. You start shrinking back. You swallow your thoughts to keep the peace. You stop asking for help. You convince yourself that keeping quiet is the only way to avoid conflict. That, my friend, is how you begin to lose your voice. Let me remind you of something important. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. Having feelings is not selfish. Wanting peace, kindness, and respect in your own home is not selfish. In fact, it's healthy. It's part of self-preservation. But people who rely on control don't like that, because self-preservation gets in the way of their control. Let's move on to another phrase that can be just as cutting, if not more. You're stupid, or you're awkward. You might think no adult child would say such a thing out loud, but sadly, many do. Sometimes it's subtle, delivered with a smirk or under the guise of a joke. Other times, it's blunt and harsh. Either way, the goal is the same: to make you feel inferior. When someone you love, and someone who once called you mom or dad, looks at you and makes you feel small, it shakes something inside. You may have lived a full, wise, accomplished life, but those words can still sting. Maybe they mock your memory, your technology skills, or your decisions. Maybe they treat your age like a punchline. You start to question your intelligence, your relevance, your worth. This isn't just about insults, it's about power. Certain individuals use shame as a tool to stay on top, because if they can convince you that you're beneath them, they stay in control. And if they can keep you doubting yourself, they ensure that you'll rely on them for validation, even when that validation never truly comes. But here's what they forget: you are not stupid, you are not awkward. You are a whole human being with decades of wisdom, resilience, and lived experience. You've overcome trials they don't even know about. Your mind may work differently now, and yes, you may forget things here and there, but that does not erase your value. It does not make you less. When they insult you, what they're really doing is projecting their own insecurity. They are trying to elevate themselves by tearing you down. Don't give them that power. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Remind yourself who you are, and do not let their words define your worth. And now, Let's talk about another phrase that can slowly unravel your sense of reality. You don't know what you're talking about. This one is especially insidious. It's not just an insult. It's a form of gaslighting. Maybe you remember a conversation a certain way. Maybe you recall an event, or a decision, or a promise they made. And when you bring it up, suddenly you're wrong. You're confused. That's not what happened. You're imagining things. You're overreacting. The more they say it, the more you begin to second-guess yourself. You start wondering if your memory is slipping. You ask others to confirm what you remember. But even then, you hesitate to speak up. You learn to stay quiet, because it's easier than defending your version of the truth. But let me tell you something. Your memory matters. Your experience is valid. You have the right to your story. Children who use manipulation often rewrite the past to paint themselves in a better light and to make you question your reality. It's a tactic meant to silence you. Don't fall for it. If you've ever found yourself saying, "Maybe I just misunderstood," or "Maybe I'm remembering it wrong," ask yourself, who benefits from you doubting yourself? When someone constantly invalidates your truth, that is not love. That is manipulation. You are not losing your mind. You are losing your voice, because someone else is trying to take it from you. You deserve to speak. You deserve to be heard. And you deserve to be believed. Now, we've covered just a few phrases so far, but already you can start to see the pattern. These aren't just throwaway lines. They are carefully crafted tools used to keep you quiet, unsure, and under control. But understanding these tools is how you begin to break free. You've lived long enough to know that people can wear many masks. But wisdom comes when we learn to see past the mask and finally reclaim the space that was always ours. Let's keep going. It's painful, isn't it? Realizing that someone you raised with love and care now uses your words against you. Maybe you've sat in silence after a phone call, staring at the wall, wondering how things turned out this way. Or maybe you've replayed a conversation over and over in your mind, trying to figure out what you did wrong. But more often than not, the problem isn't you. It's the manipulation that slowly, methodically wears away your sense of self. Let's talk about one of the most heartbreaking lines a child with these harmful behaviors might say. "People don't like you." This kind of comment is meant to isolate you, not just emotionally, but socially. They want you to feel like an outsider in your own life, disconnected from friends, family, or even your community. When someone you love and trust tells you that others don't enjoy being around you, it hits differently. You start believing that maybe your presence is a burden, that maybe it's better if you keep to yourself. This tactic works because it exploits one of our deepest human fears, being unloved and unwanted. Certain individuals use that fear to tighten their grip. They want you to believe that no one else values you, so that you'll cling to them for crumbs of approval. But don't fall for that illusion. The truth is, people do care about you. Maybe your circle has changed over the years. Maybe you're more selective now. But that doesn't mean you're unlikable. That just means you've grown. And let me remind you, anyone who truly knows your heart knows your worth. Don't let the loudest voice in the room be the most toxic one. When someone says, "People don't like you," what they're really doing is projecting their own insecurity, their own fear of rejection. They want you to feel as small as they feel inside. But you've lived too long and been through too much to believe that kind of nonsense. And sometimes the words go even deeper than that. Sometimes they attack the very foundation of who you are with this brutal line. "You were a mistake." Those 4 words, they cut like a knife. To be told that your life, your existence, was a mistake, it's soul-crushing. It doesn't matter how old you are. Hearing something like that from your own child can make you feel like you've been erased, like your entire story has been rewritten to exclude the love, sacrifice, and presence you gave. But let's stop right there. You are not a mistake. You were never a mistake. Every breath you've taken, every lesson you've learned, every moment you've touched someone else's life, it matters. You matter. Anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is not speaking truth. They're speaking pain, distortion, and cruelty. When someone, especially a child you raised, says something like that, it's not just an insult. It's an attempt to dominate you on the deepest level, to convince you that your worth is conditional and fragile. But your worth is not up for debate. It's not dependent on whether someone else chooses to acknowledge it. You were born with value, and that doesn't expire. Some of you watching may have grown up hearing that same line from your own parents. And now here it is again, echoing through the next generation. But the cycle can stop with you. The healing can begin with your voice. You don't have to believe that lie anymore. Now let's talk about another phrase that's meant to stifle your individuality and self-expression. Nobody thinks like that. This one usually comes when you express a thought, a feeling, or an opinion that doesn't align with their worldview. It's a subtle way of saying, "You're weird, you're wrong, you don't belong." It's meant to shame you into silence and push you into their version of what's normal or acceptable. You might bring up a spiritual belief, an emotional need, a family memory, and instead of listening, they scoff, "Nobody thinks like that." And suddenly you feel foolish, alone, out of place. But the beauty of being human, especially as we age, is that we've earned the right to think for ourselves. You didn't survive the storms of life just to be told how to think, feel, or believe. Your thoughts are your own, your experiences are valid, and your uniqueness is a gift, not a flaw. In fact, one of the richest parts of aging is the ability to reflect, to grow, and to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to stand apart from the crowd. And no matter how often someone tries to erase your voice with "nobody thinks like that," I want you to remember this. Your perspective matters. Your ideas may not match theirs, but they reflect your journey, your wisdom, and your truth. Don't let anyone convince you that being different means being wrong. And then there's this classic form of control. You shouldn't act that way. What they really mean is, you should only act in ways that make me comfortable. It's about control, plain and simple. They want to dictate how you dress, how you speak, how you handle conflict, even how you express emotion. Maybe you've been told you're too emotional when you cry, or too serious when you bring up a concern, or too opinionated when you set a boundary. These aren't genuine observations. They're attempts to make you feel ashamed of your authentic self. This is how controlling individuals build a cage around you, one invisible bar at a time. They want you to live according to their rules, and every time you step outside that cage, they punish you with guilt, sarcasm, or withdrawal. But you were not made to live in a cage. You are not here to perform for someone else's comfort. If something hurts, you're allowed to say so. If something brings you joy, you're allowed to express it. You're allowed to show up as your full self, not the watered-down version someone else prefers. The reality is, children who rely on control often fear your authenticity, because your truth threatens their illusion of control. So they try to mold you, edit you, tame you. But the more you shrink yourself, the more you lose the very essence of who you are. So let me say this clearly. You do not have to change who you are to be accepted by someone who's unwilling to accept you. You do not have to act the way they want you to act. You have a right to be real, to be honest, and to be seen. You've earned that right through every challenge, every heartache, and every triumph. And no one, not even your child, has the authority to take that away from you. You are not here to fit into someone else's box. You are here to live your life boldly, gently, freely. And as we continue, I want you to hold this thought close. Your voice is your power, and you don't need anyone's permission to use it. Sometimes the most painful silences are the ones we're pressured into. You want to speak up, to defend yourself, to say, "That's not right," or "That's not who I am." But something inside tells you to stay quiet, because experience has taught you that when you do speak up, things get worse, not better. That's not just hurt, that's conditioning. And it happens slowly, over time, when we're exposed to emotional manipulation, especially by someone we love. Let's look at a phrase that thrives on fear. "If you go against me, you'll be sorry." This is emotional blackmail in its rawest form. It's a threat, sometimes veiled, sometimes direct, and it's meant to scare you into obedience. When your adult child says this, or even implies it, they are drawing a line in the sand. Agree with me, stay quiet, or face the consequences. Maybe you've heard it after setting a boundary. Maybe you said no to lending money, or you asked for more respect. Suddenly, they go cold. They stop calling. Or worse, they lash out with cruel words, slamming doors, or threatening to cut off contact with the grandkids. It's not just about the moment. They want you to think twice next time. They want fear to do the talking, not your truth. And let me tell you, fear is powerful, especially when it comes from someone you love. You start to tiptoe around conversations. You agree just to keep the peace. You sacrifice your voice so the relationship doesn't explode. But a relationship built on fear isn't a relationship, it's a prison, and you deserve more than that. You are allowed to go against someone when it's right for your well-being. You are allowed to say no without fearing punishment. You don't have to live under the shadow of "you'll be sorry." If someone's love comes with threats, it's not love. It's control. Let's move to a phrase that's often whispered just before someone tries to bury your truth. Nobody's going to believe you. This one is especially cruel because it attacks your credibility and silences your story before you even speak. It's often used when you try to bring up past mistreatment or hold them accountable. Suddenly, you're told that you're exaggerating, lying, or imagining things. And not only that, they claim that if you try to talk to anyone else, they'll take their side. This is how controlling children protect their image. They don't just want to control you, they want to control the narrative. And if that means discrediting you, so be it. The result? You become isolated. You hold your pain in. You stop talking about it with friends, because a small voice inside whispers, "What if they don't believe me?" That voice doesn't belong to you, it was planted there. But now it echoes in your mind every time you consider speaking up. Here's the truth. Your story matters, and more people will believe you than you think, especially those who've walked a similar road. In fact, if you're watching this video right now, you've already joined a community of people who know what this feels like, who understand. You don't need everyone to believe you. You only need to start by believing yourself. Trust your memories. Trust your gut. You lived it. You don't need permission to speak your truth. And finally, we come to one of the most heartbreaking phrases of all. Why would anyone be attracted to someone like you? This one stings deeper than most because it attacks the softest parts of your identity, your ability to be loved, wanted, cherished. When a child says something like this, it's not just mean, it's cruel. It's designed to crush your confidence and make you feel undeserving of connection. Maybe you've started dating again. Or maybe you've simply started dressing up, smiling more, reclaiming a part of yourself. And instead of support, you're met with sarcasm or ridicule. Why would anyone want you? They ask. But here's what they don't understand. Real attractiveness has nothing to do with age or perfection. It has everything to do with light, warmth, kindness, and confidence. And you, my dear friend, have all of that. You've earned your wisdom. You've earned your peace. And if someone is drawn to that, whether as a friend, a companion, or a partner, that is a beautiful thing. Don't let anyone shame you into shrinking. When a child with controlling tendencies says things like this, what they're really doing is trying to keep you small. Because your growth, your joy, your potential. All of it threatens the false image they've built of you being weak, dependent, or unworthy. But you are none of those things. You are strong. You are evolving. You are still here, and you are still becoming. Let's take a breath together. Everything we've talked about today has one core thread: the loss of your voice. Each of these phrases is a tool used to silence you, distort your truth, and rewrite your identity. But just like Echo in Greek mythology, who was cursed to only repeat the voices of others, you too may have felt like you lost the ability to speak freely. But here's the difference. You're not Echo. You're not cursed. You have a voice, and you can choose to use it. That might mean speaking up to your child, or simply standing firm in your boundaries. It might mean reaching out for support, writing down your truth, or refusing to accept disrespect any longer. Whatever it looks like for you, know this: your voice is still within you. It's never too late to reclaim it. And if you've been feeling like you're fading into the background of your own life, please hear me. This is your moment to step forward. You are not too old to be respected. You are not too broken to be loved. You are not too late to matter. Every word you speak with honesty and courage chips away at the silence that's been built around you. And every time you choose to believe in yourself, your story, your worth, you take back a piece of what was stolen. So speak. Even if your voice shakes, speak. Say, I deserve to be heard. Say, I remember what happened. Say, I am not what they say I am. Say, I choose peace. I choose healing. I choose me. And if this video spoke to you today, I want you to know, you are not alone. We are building a community here on Strong Elderly Life where your voice matters. So if this touched your heart, leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your experience, or just say, I'm still standing. And if you found comfort here, I invite you to like this video and subscribe. We talk about the things that others often avoid, because we believe healing begins with truth. And your truth is welcome here. Here's to standing tall in your story. Here's to honoring your voice. And here's to living your best, strongest, most peaceful life at any age.